They say when God speaks, the world should go silent. But funny thing is, the world's too loud to hear anything anymore. Sirens of distraction screaming from every corner. Everyone's scrolling, selling, shouting, but no one's listening. Not really. And yet, somewhere buried under all that noise, there's a whisper. Not soft, but sharp, like a blade across a page. A warning. They told you everything was fine, didn't they? That life's a straight line. Get up, work, smile politely, rinse and repeat until your bones forget what it felt like to dance. But here's the little secret no one's brave enough to say out loud. Everything they trained you to believe was designed to keep you asleep. You were raised in a system that calls obedience, virtue, and numbness maturity. And now here you are, feeling like something's off. And you're right. Because when something ancient starts stirring in your chest, when that whisper inside gets louder than the world outside, that's not insanity. That's awakening. It's the moment your soul slams the table and says, enough. It's not polite, it's not pretty, but it's true. And truth, my friend, is a violent thing. It doesn't tap you gently on the shoulder. It kicks down the door and sets fire to everything you thought was safe. This message, it isn't casual. It isn't small talk. This is one of those moments where something far beyond this concrete circus we call civilization is trying to shake you, to snap you out of the performance you've mistaken for a personality, to show you that the version of yourself you've been clinging to is outdated, expired, useless in the war that's unfolding, not out there, but in here. See, the greatest deception wasn't that you were powerless. It's that you were ever supposed to play it small. That you were meant to blend in, keep your head down, follow the rules, and maybe, just maybe, you'd get a reward at the end. But that reward? It's a leash. A pat on the head from a system that only loves you when you're manageable, contained, predictable. But you were never meant to be any of those things. You were meant to disrupt, to unfold, to erupt into something so dangerous to the status quo, they'd have no choice but to label you crazy, just to keep their illusions intact. The warning you're feeling now, it's not fear. It's a signal. A flare from the depths of you that haven't been seen in years. It's the part of you that remembers, the you before the programming, the you before the compromises. That you isn't scared of shaking the foundation. That you is what this message is waking up. And don't expect applause. Don't expect support. Because the moment you start walking differently, talking differently, thinking differently, the crowd turns. Why? Because your transformation threatens their stagnation. Your fire makes their comfort look like a coffin. And most people would rather stay buried than breathe truth. But this message, it's personal. It's not for them. It's not trending. It's not marketable. It's not palatable enough for polite company. It's for you, the one who's been carrying weight you don't even talk about. The one who's been pretending everything's fine while something inside is screaming. The one who knows, deep down, that this world isn't what it seems. That something massive is shifting beneath the surface. And you either move with it, or you get crushed by it. You don't need more noise. You need silence, stillness, that sacred space where divine warnings echo loudest, where you stop chasing approval and start listening to that subtle roar inside your chest, the one that doesn't beg, it commands, the one that doesn't ask permission, it knows. And once you hear it clearly, nothing else ever sounds the same again. This isn't about religion. It's about revelation. It's not about being right. It's about being awake. The world wants you tame. This message wants you untamed. It wants you fierce, unapologetic, lit up from the inside with something that doesn't need validation to be real. There's a war going on for your attention, for your allegiance, for your soul. One side wants you sedated, compliant, scrolling yourself into silence. The other side, it wants you to remember, to rise, to disrupt the sleepwalking masses with the kind of presence that rattles cages just by existing. You ever notice how people love to talk about purpose like it's some polished trophy waiting on a shelf somewhere? They say, find your purpose, like you're just supposed to trip over it one day between coffee and traffic. But no one tells you what happens when it actually finds you, when it grabs you by the throat in the middle of the night and won't let go, when it doesn't sound like a song or a sermon, but like a scream, like something ancient pounding in your rib cage, demanding to be unleashed. It doesn't feel poetic. It doesn't come with angelic lighting or violins. It feels like madness, like losing everything that made you blend in, like being stripped down to the bone because anything fake can't go where you're being pulled. That's the catch. Everyone wants purpose until it requires death. Not physical. No, that's too easy. I'm talking about the death of your ego, your comfort, your need to be liked, your addiction to approval. Purpose burns that all to ash. Then it says, good. Now we can begin. Because if you think you're going to carry divine instruction in one hand and everyone's acceptance in the other, you're not ready. That path is narrow for a reason. Not everyone makes it. Not everyone wants to. They say they do, but what they really want is to look like they're changing while staying the same. They want the applause without the agony, but real purpose, real calling, it costs. It costs you your illusion of control. It costs you your carefully curated identity. It might even cost you people, especially the ones who only loved the version of you that didn't challenge them. But when God speaks your name, not the one they gave you, but the one etched into the core of who you are, everything false starts to fall off. It has to. Because your name carries weight. And that weight was never meant to be dragged through shallow waters. It was meant for fire, for depth, for war. Most people won't understand. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're too intense. They'll call you crazy while secretly fearing the mirror you've become. Because when you move in purpose, you expose everyone who's still hiding. Your courage will offend their cowardice. Your discipline will trigger their distractions. Your vision will scare them blind. But that's not your problem. You're not here to fit in. You're here to wake up. So when that voice inside starts getting louder, when you can't sit through another meaningless meeting, when your soul starts itching in places the world can't reach, that's the call. That's your name echoing through eternity, refusing to be silenced. And no, it won't come with step-by-step instructions. It won't hold your hand. It will demand that you trust before you understand, that you move before you feel ready, that you leap without a safety net, because safety is the illusion that's kept you shackled for too long. It's not glamorous. There's no highlight reel for the in-between. No audience when you're breaking at 3 a.m. trying to make sense of the chaos inside. But that's where the alchemy happens. That's where the noise dies and the truth screams through. That's where you stop negotiating with destiny and start surrendering to it. That's where you stop asking for signs and start becoming one. You see, people think calling is comfortable. It's not. It's confrontation. It confronts everything in you that's been caged, chained, deluded. It dares you to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know, because deep down you know. You've always known. That flicker that wouldn't die, that ache you couldn't numb, that glimpse of something more. It wasn't random. It was a reminder. So now you're here, heart pounding, skin tingling, not because you're broken, but because you're being built. Not in the way the world builds, flashy, hollow, temporary, but forged, pressed, refined, called. And when that calling shows up, it doesn't knock politely. It kicks the damn door in and says, get up. Because something bigger than your comfort is at stake now. Something eternal, something with your name on it that only you can carry. You ever wonder why you feel like a stranger in every room you walk into? Like no matter how many people clap for you, you still hear the silence louder? It's not that you're broken, it's not that you're behind, it's because you're built for something they can't see. And here's the real twist. You're not crazy. You're chosen. But being chosen doesn't feel like a fairy tale. It feels like isolation wrapped in divine fingerprint, like a cosmic game of hide and seek where your soul remembers something your brain forgot. See, when you're set apart, life doesn't hand you peace on a silver platter. It throws you into chaos and expects you to carve meaning from madness. You ever notice that? The deeper your calling, the louder the noise. That's not a coincidence. That's a test. Not from the world, from whatever force built you. Because before it can trust you with influence, it has to see if you'll fold when no one's looking. They have to see if you'll stay faithful in the furnace, loyal in the wilderness, grounded in the storm. You keep wondering why things haven't clicked yet. Maybe they have. Maybe they've clicked in a dimension you're not used to listening to. Being chosen means seeing through things and people faster than they want you to. You spot manipulation while they're still sugarcoating it. You hear lies wrapped in charm. You read the room like it's written in subtitles. And it doesn't earn you praise, it earns you distance. Because your discernment makes people uncomfortable. Your presence makes cowards nervous. Your truth cuts through their masks. And let me tell you, people will always label what they don't understand. Too much, too intense, too sensitive. That's what they call you when they can't handle your light shining on their darkness. So you stop talking, you shrink, you water yourself down because silence feels safer than rejection. But deep down your bones are burning. Because you know you weren't built to blend. You weren't sent here to echo the noise. You were sent to disrupt it. And disruption isn't polite. It doesn't ask permission. It flips tables and temples and calls things out that no one else will. And that kind of energy, that kind of purpose, it comes with a price. You're going to lose people. People who loved the version of you that played small. People who only stuck around as long as you stayed predictable. But when you start stepping into the fullness of who you are, when your voice stops shaking and your hands stop apologizing, they'll leave. Not because you changed, but because you stopped pretending. And pretending is the drug they were addicted to. So let them go. Let the ones who only knew your shadows exit before your light blinds them. See, being chosen doesn't mean you're better. It means you're responsible. Responsible for breaking cycles you didn't start. Responsible for carrying burdens you didn't cause. Responsible for speaking truth when it's not trendy and walking alone when it's not comfortable. You're not here for easy. You're here for impact. You're here for the shift. And the shift, it starts with pain. It starts with everything falling apart so the real foundation can rise. And yes, it's exhausting, carrying this kind of weight while pretending you're fine, smiling while your soul's unraveling. But I'll tell you something they won't. Exhaustion isn't weakness, it's evidence. Evidence that you're doing the work most people avoid. Evidence that you're carrying purpose with integrity. Evidence that you're carrying purpose with integrity. Evidence that something inside you refuses to quit even when quitting would be easier. So you walk different, talk different, think different, and that difference is your signal, not your curse. That difference is your confirmation. You were never meant to blend in. You ever notice how the loudest ones in the room are usually the most hollow? All bark, no bite, flashy words, empty souls. They wear masks not because they're hiding something, but because there's nothing there at all. And while everyone's busy chasing clout, applause, followers, filters, you're haunted by silence, not because you're weak, but because your soul is tuned into a frequency they don't even know exists. You're not chasing noise. You're waiting for something real, something ancient, something divine. But here's the catch. When God speaks your name, the world starts attacking your identity. You thought the moment would come with peace, didn't you? Some cinematic music in the background, angels humming, clarity arriving like a warm bath. No. When you're called, it's violent, it's messy, it's confusing. Because before the world celebrates you, it tries to crucify you. It pokes, prods, twists you until you question everything, not just your path, your own name, your sanity. People say, if God called me, why is everything falling apart? That's the point. It's not falling apart, it's falling off. The illusions, the attachments, the people who only loved your silence, never your truth. The mask you wore so long you forgot what your face looked like. God doesn't decorate the old, He demolishes it. When He speaks your name, He's not inviting you to a party. He's sending you into a war zone, and the battlefield is inside you. So you isolate. Not because you're antisocial, because your spirit can't stand the noise anymore. You sit in rooms and feel like you're choking. You hear conversations and feel like you're eavesdropping on lies. You try to speak truth and it comes out too raw, too sharp. So you shut up. You shrink. You start to question whether this whole calling thing was a mistake. Because if God really called you, shouldn't it feel better? But that's where most people give up. Right at the edge of breakthrough. Right when the pressure starts crushing them into diamonds. Because they think God's silence means absence. But what if silence is the strategy? What if the stillness isn't punishment? It's preparation. What if He's watching to see if you can hold the weight of your name before He lets the world hear it? When God finally speaks your name, you'll feel it before you hear it. It's not a whisper, it's a disruption. Your sleep shifts, your appetite changes. The things that once satisfied you suddenly taste like ash. The music you used to love now sounds off. The friendships that were once familiar now feel foreign. That's the divine pulling you out of orbit, recalibrating your spirit. Because when you're chosen, you can't keep dancing to a broken rhythm. You've got to tune yourself to a higher beat. But here's the real kicker. The attack isn't always external. Sometimes the devil you're fighting looks like you in the mirror. Doubt in your own voice, shame in your own eyes. That little whisper that says, "Who do you think you are?" That's not the world. That's the residue from years of people telling you to dim your light, from wounds that never got to scab over because you kept hiding them under fake smiles and productivity. The calling forces it all to the surface, not to shame you, to heal you. You can't walk in divine purpose while dragging dead weight from a broken past. So the pruning begins. God doesn't just remove what's bad, He strips what's no longer necessary. Friends that made sense 5 years ago start ghosting you. Opportunities you prayed for suddenly slip through your fingers. Your name gets left off the invite list. Not because you did something wrong, but because elevation requires separation. You've been trying to fly while chained to things that don't even want to walk. And don't expect applause. There's no standing ovation when you start healing. No parade when you choose truth over comfort. In fact, expect resistance from family, from friends, even from your own mind. But that's the sign you're doing it right. Growth isn't loud, it's gritty. It's lonely, it's dark, like a seed in the soil. Buried, ignored, unseen, until it breaks. And when it breaks, then it rises. Not because it was lucky, but because it was built to rise. Because someone whispered its name in the silence, and it finally remembered who it was. You know what's funny? People think that once you've been called, once your name has been spoken by something higher, it's all upward from there. As if life suddenly turns into a straight escalator to glory. They think favor means ease. They think anointing is applause. But the truth? The moment you're called is the same moment you're targeted. And not just by the world, but by everything inside you that was never meant to carry the weight of your purpose. See, when God speaks your name, it doesn't just activate your potential, it activates your opposition. And I'm not just talking about enemies in the classic sense. No. I'm talking about the enemies disguised as habits, as patterns, as comfort, as this is just who I am. Because the calling doesn't just bring out the best in you. It draws out everything that's been quietly waiting to keep you small. Every insecurity you buried under busyness. Every fear dressed up like logic. Every compromise you justified to survive in rooms too small for your soul. And then there's the fear. Oh, the fear. Not of failure, but of success. Because if you actually step into what you were born to do, now you're accountable. You can't play dumb anymore, can't pretend you didn't hear it, can't keep blaming the world for doors you never bothered to knock on. It's terrifying to realize that greatness requires exposure, because when you step into light, people see your shadow too. They see the cracks, the scars, the broken edges, and suddenly being invisible looks safe again. But here's the trap. You'll start convincing yourself that maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe you should wait on a sign. Maybe you're just being humble. Lies. All of it. You're not waiting. You're stalling. You're not being humble. You're being haunted. Haunted by the version of you that would rather settle for security than walk into uncertainty. Because walking in your calling means letting go of the persona you built to survive. And that's not easy. That version of you got you through some dark times. That mask protected you. But it's not you anymore. And deep down, you know it. So you wrestle, internally. Quietly, publicly, you smile, you show up, you play the part. But in your private moments, that's where the war rages. That's where the voice won't shut up. That inner scream that says you were made for more. And it's not motivational fluff, it's not ego. It's spiritual DNA trying to break through the chains of conformity. Trying to wake you up before you rot in a life too small for your calling. And don't get it twisted. Your calling doesn't need validation. It existed before you were born. It's not waiting for your friends to agree, for your family to understand, or for society to clap. It's waiting for you to stop negotiating with fear and start moving like you actually believe. Because when you move, everything else moves. The timing aligns, the doors open, the weight lifts, not because it got easier, but because you finally stopped playing dead. But first, there's pain, there's loss, there's mourning. Mourning the version of you that won't make it to your future. Mourning the relationships that only loved your silence, not your truth. Mourning the comfort that kept you numb but stable. It hurts. Transformation always does. It requires surrender. The kind of surrender that doesn't make sense. The kind that looks foolish from the outside. The kind that says, even if I lose everything familiar, I won't lose myself again. And this is where most people tap out, because the wilderness is longer than they expected, because obedience doesn't come with a tracking number, because they confuse delay with denial. But the ones who endure, the ones who keep walking when there's no applause, no map, no proof, those are the ones who finally realize it was never about the spotlight. It was about alignment, wholeness, peace, that rare, sacred peace that only comes when you stop pretending and start becoming. The irony, once you stop chasing approval, the right people start showing up. Once you stop faking it, the real support appears. Once you get clear on your calling, the distractions get exposed for what they are. Noise. Empty galleries, spiritual junk food that kept you bloated but starving. And suddenly all that pain, it becomes fuel. All that rejection, it becomes redirection. All that silence, it becomes the soundtrack to your becoming.